Facing huge international pressure over the Rohingya crisis, Myanmar's leader Aung San Suu Kyi will not be attending the UN General Assembly this week. A crackdown by Myanmar's army, launched in response to Rohingya militant attacks on the 25th of August, has sent more than 379,000 Rohingya refugees scrambling across the border to Bangladesh in less than 3 weeks. Prime Minister Modi in Myanmar last week had voiced support for the country's concerns on terror and security. But after a nudge from Dhaka, India issued a more toned-down statement a few days ago, urging restraint and a focus on the welfare of the civilian population as well as security forces. I spoke earlier today to Bangladesh's envoy to India, Saeed Muazzem Ali. So thank you very much for joining us on NDTV today. What is the status of the Rohingya refugee crisis in Bangladesh right now? We hear that the number has actually dramatically increased in recent days and it's becoming difficult for Bangladesh to take them in.
Well, Nidhi, the number is increasing dramatically. As of the latest information that I have, 370,000 Rohingya refugees had taken shelter in Bangladesh. This is in addition to the 400,000 of Rohingya refugees who have been living in Bangladesh for the past decade. Now, this humanitarian crisis has affected us at a particular time when Bangladesh was hit by the worst floods in the recent decades, and we were directly involved in a major relief rehabilitation program for our flood-affected victims. Yesterday, my Prime Minister visited the camps where the Rohingya refugees have been temporarily settled, and she has mentioned time and again also that these people of Rohingya refugees, we can only give them temporary shelter, but the solution of the problem lies with the Myanmar authorities. They must make necessary conditions for the return of these refugees so that they can live in their own country with dignity, honor, and security.
Right, sir, it's understood that India changed the tone of its statement on the crisis after it was conveyed from Bangladesh to do for India to do more. What exactly was conveyed by Dhaka to the Indian Foreign Secretary last week?
Well, I met the Indian Foreign Secretary on last Saturday, and I did convey to him that India as our closest neighbor, as well as India as the regional power, should exercise its good offices to influence Myanmar or to encourage Myanmar to take a position which could lead to for the return of this huge number of refugees back to their own country. Bangladesh and my Prime Minister particularly has condemned all acts of terrorist attacks in the Myanmar area. I think on 25th, when this took place, Bangladesh condemned it in the strongest possible terms. As you know, Bangladesh Prime Minister has so far shown zero tolerance on the question of terrorism. And as you know, the security has always been the hallmark of our cooperation with India. So we have full support for the Myanmarese authorities if they are trying to do an anti-terrorist campaign. But this must be separated. An anti-terrorist campaign cannot be equated with ethnic cleansing and a genocide, which has led to the exodus of this huge number of people to Bangladesh. Now, I would like to add here that this mass exodus of these people would create new security threats, not only for Bangladesh, for the region at large. So it is in our common interest, we should try to expeditiously return these refugees back to their country.
Well, you've used very strong words like ethnic cleansing and genocide. And were you then disappointed by India's initial statement in Myanmar when the Prime Minister visited? Is Bangladesh satisfied with the Indian position now?
Well, it is not a question of being satisfied with the position. We are only asking India as our closest neighbor to exercise its good offices. Basically, India has a lot of influence on Myanmar, and I'm sure India can persuade them to take back these refugees. We are merely asking India to play a proactive role in this regard.
Well, India says there's a security angle, that India has security concerns about Rohingyas, which is why, there is this whole move to deport them. What would you say about that?
Well, obviously, for the India's security concern, you should ask the Indian officials to comment. It is not for me to comment what kind of security threats India faces. But all that I have read in the newspaper is about the presence of some Rohingya refugees in certain highly sensitive areas of your country.
All right, sir. Thank you very much for joining us on NDTV today. Thank you.